This morning at a Minneapolis church, Annunciation Church, also a school, pre-K to 8th grade. Let's listen in to Mayor Jacob Fry.
But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. I'm so deeply saddened, and I'm so sorry to the families that I know are suffering right now. My ask is to everyone, stand by them, love them. These families have forever been changed, and we've all been changed with them. We need to do everything possible to support them through this time. We have a family resource center that has been set up. I'm grateful for all of the law enforcement agencies from a number of different jurisdictions, and all the different departmental support that we've received. They're going to be working tirelessly. There's also a family resource center that is being set up as we speak to make sure that we're there for everybody. Again, to the families that are suffering, to those that have experienced loss, I'm so deeply sorry. We're going to be with you every step of the way. We love you. This kind of act of evil should never happen, and it happens far too often. The chief will provide additional details.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N-O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside on the side of the building and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. Ages 8 and 10 were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation? Any notes or any other information he might have left?
So we were looking, the question was, what can be said about the shooter? We believe it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive known criminal history, and we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah.
How many students do you have about?
How many children? There were. I don't have an exact. The question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them. Reg.
Other than the weapon, was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did he leave anything behind other than the weapon?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched, and we will be conducting other searches related to this. Inside the parking lot here.
Yep.
Yep.
There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep.
Is that correct?
So the question was, neighbors had said that the door to the church had been barricaded. The shooter approached on one side of the church building, and on that side, at least two doors, it appears there had been like a 2x4 placed. So not all of the doors around the building, but on the side where the shooter did fire.
And on the outside?
On the outside, yes.
Were there any explosives that were found?
The question was there any explosives? There were reports of that. There were no explosives or improvised devices that we found. I do believe there was one, I guess you would call it a smoke bomb, like not an explosive, but a sort of a firework that would release smoke.
And which side of the building? North, south?
The side that is closest to us, here, on this side, yep.
Was he reason why it was also at these nearby homes?
I don't have specific information on that I can release. The question was, is he dead from a gunshot wound? The answer is yes. We believe he took his own life in the parking lot.
Was this outside or both inside that he was shooting?
The question was he shooting outside and inside? He was absolutely shooting outside of the building on the side of the church, inside through the windows. It appears he may have gone inside, but I don't believe we've located any casings inside the building. So I'm not certain if he fired also while inside. It appears, if not all, most of the shooting happened outside the building.
Chief, is this shooting related to any other shootings that happened in the last 24
So,
hours?
yeah, Taylor's asking, is this related to any of the other shootings? This does not appear to be related to any other shooting in the city.
Do you know approximately how many rounds were fired?
The question was how many rounds? I would say it's in the dozens. We don't have an exact count. There's a sidewalk on the outside as well as a grassy area. So obviously we are going through and taking our time to process the scene.
Was he firing just one weapon, like the rifle?
The question was he firing one weapon? We believe he had fired all three. He had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol.
Chief, was this individual licensed to conceal and carry? Did
Were the weapons, was he lawfully carrying the weapons? I don't have that information. And I don't have any information on any significant criminal history either.
Was he dressed at all in any tactical type of gear or anything?
It appeared he had some black clothing on, his cargo type pants. I guess you could interpret that as, however you like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for helping us to get the information out today. We have a lot more work that needs to be done. We will return back later today to provide more details as they become available, and we'll let you know how you can know about that in the moments to come. Thank you.
How can the public help?
An update there from Minneapolis police and the mayor of Minneapolis. We just learned from officials 2 children were killed, 17 others were injured. That's 14 children and 3 adults at a Minneapolis Catholic school during a mass taking place this morning, just a couple days after school started there. Police say the 2 children who were killed, ages 8 and 10, they were killed when a gunman fired using multiple weapons, shooting from outside of the church through the church windows at the children who were sitting in pews. Let's bring in NBC's Adrian Broaddus, who, like me, has worked in Minneapolis for years, knows this area well. Adrian, what else can you tell us about what we're learning?
Some tough details this morning coming from Chief Brian O'Hara, Joe. That's right, 2 children killed, and now the families of those children will have to plan their funerals. We're talking about the lives of an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old who were sitting in the pews of a church when that gunman fired shots. The chief telling us he fired 3 weapons, a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. 17 people were injured, 14 of them children. That's right. You guys heard me say 17 people injured, 14 of them kids. This happened during Mass this morning at Annunciation Church there on the south side of Minneapolis. The motive, still unclear. Investigators say they believe the suspect, who they have described as a 20-year-old male, left behind possibly a vehicle. They think that car is that person's vehicle. Why he did this, it's still unclear. Now, for our viewers who are just catching up on this, prior to this incident, there were multiple shootings in Minneapolis. The chief saying he does not think those shootings were related. But the shooting took place outside of the church. The 20-year-old suspect shooting through the windows. He hit children and worshipers inside. This is the first week of school for those kids. It's a through 8th grade school, and it's a Catholic school, so they were having Mass to start the beginning of the new year. And I think what struck me the most, Joe, is when Mayor Jacob Frey said, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's time out for thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying inside a church, Joe.
Some strong statements there from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Adrian, thank you so much. Let's bring in NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter. Tom, anytime we cover a school shooting, it is difficult to hear the details, but it is just chilling to hear police describing the gunman standing outside of the church, shooting through the window at kids who are attending the first Mass of the year, just their 3rd day of the school year. Police telling us no real criminal history they know of with this suspect, who is in his early 20s. Unclear at this point if he was a former student or ever worked at the church or the school. What else are you hearing and learning right now?
Yeah, so the police chief there, Brian O'Hara, calling it sheer cruelty at this press conference, going into detail as far as what happened. The incident, what struck out to me is that 2 of the doors were apparently bolted or at least secured with a 2x4, according to him. And so that would have made it difficult for the shooter to get inside. Now, we don't know whether that happened either just prior to or just after the shots were initially fired. But obviously there was an effort here to keep anybody out of the church. And yet this individual individual was still able to kill an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, firing through the windows, saying that he used all three weapons, a rifle, presumably a semi-automatic rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol were all used throughout the shooting. Not clear what he used to specifically initially fire upon those students who, as we've been reporting, were sitting in their pews as part of their first week of school and celebrating Mass as part of that first week of school. This individual, as the chief said, as you alluded to, Joe, no significant background or history. We've talked to a number of people in law enforcement circles this morning in the counterterrorism and intelligence realms within law enforcement. Still no initial indication of a motive for this. The chief indicated that they're going to continue to search this person who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the back of that church at some point. Apparently, he was able to get inside, although it's not clear and no initial indication, according to the chief, that he actually fired from inside the church. But this individual, they're going to search him, see if there's any information on him. He kind of alluded to that could help out with motive here. There was a vehicle that was left behind on school grounds, on the church grounds, that they're going to search, as well as the chief alluded to some other searches that would be taking place, presumably this individual's residence and background. He was asked about the weapons and whether or not this individual was lawfully allowed to carry these weapons. He did note that there was no significant criminal history. I'll translate that out of law enforcement to plain speak. That typically means no significant felonies, which would perhaps make it difficult for this individual to have obtained these weapons or continue to hold them. But as we've seen so often, Joe, in so many shootings, whether the laws are in place or they're not, typically, obviously, somebody that's going to do that is not going to follow the law. So a lot of questions about who this individual is and why they did it. No questions this morning about the severity of this incident and the sadness that's associated with it. Anytime in particular we're talking about students that are dead.
And we do know, and we want to listen right now, officials with Hennepin County Medical Center who are treating some of the wounded are speaking right now. Let's listen into that.
A page that we were going to have a mass casualty incident at 8:46 a.m. this morning. That gave us time to mobilize all of our resources and prepare our teams. We are a level 1 trauma center, and we prepare and we train for this. Having said that these incidents are never easy. We've had 2 in the last 24 hours that have occurred, these mass casualty incidents. The one today, we received a total of 11 patients from this incident. 2 of them were adult patients, 9 pediatric patients. 4 of them required the operating room. And up to this point in time, there have been no fatalities related to any of those patients that were brought to our organization. I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved. Hennepin EMS brought in all the critical patients from that scene to our organization, and we were very lucky to have 2 emergency medical services directors that were on scene and able to provide us with really important information that, again, helped us to prepare for this event. So I don't have any individual or specific information about the patients at this time for you, so that's all I can share. Thank you for being here. Any questions?
So they were in critical condition?
7 were brought in as critical patients, and at this time, I don't know the updates on what the conditions are of many of them. 4 of them required the operating room, as I said. There were, again, 9 of the 11 patients were pediatric ages. I can't remember the exact name, the exact ages. I believe it's 6 all the way up to 14. That's the range.
Can you tell us a little bit about what types of teams you had working this morning, how many people it takes to
Yeah, you know, whenever that type of a page goes out, again, it really puts into motion a lot of a big response from all of the teams. And so because we're a level 1 trauma center, we have to, mobilize certain types of resources like, operating rooms and the surgical services. We have to have emergency providers and nurses. We have to, mobilize things like the laboratory and the blood bank. So there's a lot of planning and, again, a lot of exercises we do throughout the year to prepare for these events. And unfortunately, we respond to many of them throughout the year.
Can you talk about the injuries at all, or any type of what you're seeing here with some of these patients?
I can't get into specifics, but we are dealing with gunshot wound injuries from apparently a high-velocity weapon. And, gunshot wounds can be very problematic because they can involve multiple body systems. And again, they require a lot of resources to manage. But again, we see a lot of gunshot wounds here at Hennepin Healthcare, and we're among the best in the nation every year at managing penetrating trauma. So we are used to seeing them.
Can you tell us where the status of the 11, are any of them still in surgery?
I don't know the status of that. I can't share that with you at this time.
Was anyone shot more than once?
I can't share that information with you at this time.
Can you confirm the families of some of the victims have made their way here?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of effort to stand up a reunification center across the street here at our clinical specialty care building. And so to my knowledge, I believe all or almost all of the families and loved ones have been reunited with patients and know their status.
Do you know if anyone is being treated at any other locations?
My understanding was we had a lot of the non-critical patients that went to Children's Hospital, and I believe one went to Masonic Children's Hospital as well. I don't know the status of any of those patients. Yeah, it does take a toll. Thank you for asking that question. I think, again, we have psychologists that we have dedicated to our emergency department to help with our providers and our nurses and other workers that manage these types of events. Again, we've had 2 mass casualty events happen in the last 24 hours. I mean, that does take a toll. But we also have to recognize that we are here as a critical resource for our community, and we have to take time to process, the care that we deliver in these situations, and we have to be able to move forward because we are obviously needed.
And none of those patients have been discharged?
Not to my knowledge.
You said there were 11 total, and 9 of them were pediatrics ages 6 to 14, but 7 were in critical condition. Are all of those that are pediatric, those 6 to 14, are all of those the critical condition, or the ones that are older also in critical condition?
I don't want to misspeak here. I believe that all of the pediatric patients were the ones that were in the critical condition. Yes.
And did I get my numbers right in saying that the numbers are?
You did.
Thank you.
Can you give us your specific title one more time, Doctor?
It's Thomas Wyatt, Chair of Emergency Medicine at Hennepin Healthcare.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check out our newsroom too, because I will be posting the exact information on the patients, their conditions, just those general conditions and the numbers. The Hennepin Healthcare Newsroom. Thanks for coming.
Do you anticipate any other updates?
I'm hoping to give another update later.
From Hennepin County Medical Center, an update there, which has treated 11 of the patients who were injured in the shooting earlier at Annunciation. In all, 17 people were injured, 14 of them kids. We now know 11 of those patients, 9 kids, 2 adults, were taken to Hennepin County Medical Center. 4 of them needed to go into the operating room. So far, no fatalities reported from anyone who was taken to that hospital. We know other patients were taken to Children's Minnesota. That's a children's hospital about 5 miles from the scene of today's shooting. The doctor also referencing there, it has been a tough 24 hours in Minneapolis. There was another mass casualty shooting yesterday afternoon in South Minneapolis. 7 people shot, 1 killed. Police making the point a little earlier. They do not believe that shooting is connected to the church shooting that took place this morning. We want to bring in Tom Winter once again. Tom, we understand you have some new reporting to share with us. What are you learning?
Yeah, just to add to what you were saying there, Joe, the ages 6 to 14 of those that are being treated among the kids there at the hospital. Whenever we hear about an incident involving a rifle, presumed to be a semi-automatic rifle, some folks call that an assault-type rifle, but with so many modifications available to these weapons these days, we'll just keep it at the semi-automatic rifle stage of this. I think whenever you hear about injuries to kids as young as the age of 6, and the doctor alluded to it there, it is extremely serious. So when we say critical, these kids are really in critical condition because of the damage that those rounds do to a child's body. Having covered more school shootings than I care to remember, that's something that's always top of mind and obviously be on the officials' mind. As far as the investigation and where it stands right now, it strikes me that individuals took precautions to keep this person from outside the church. Perhaps some of these doors were locked or barricaded even before it happened, and yet now we see an incident. In prior school shootings, we've pointed out Uvalde, Texas is an example, several other school communities where the doors were open or doors were able to be accessed for a shooter to get inside of a facility. It appears here that that wasn't the case, and it wasn't until the very end of the shooting that this individual was able to get inside of the church. What does that all mean? It means that some of the best practices were followed here, and yet, obviously, we're dealing with a complete tragedy today. The investigation now focusing on the motive for this individual in his early 20s. No significant criminal history, we're told. That typically means no major felonies, no serious interactions with the court system. Still working to confirm the name of this person. They are actively checking this individual's body to see if there are any sort of writings left behind. Obviously, in this day and age, the phone is kind of a personal diary for all of us as far as our activities and what our interests are. And so we're going to continue to see if we can develop some information that law enforcement gets throughout the course of that. And they are searching his vehicle and presumably his last address right now, if not already. So that's where the investigation stands into this individual. The incident is over. He did die of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, Joe.
All right, Tom, we know you'll keep us updated as you learn new information throughout the day. We want to bring in now Jan Unstad. She was an eyewitness who was driving near the school when the shooting happened. She saw parents pulling over to run into the school again. An all-school mass was taking place at the time of the shooting. Jan, we know this has been an incredibly difficult morning for you. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. How are you doing right now? And tell us a little more about what you saw as you were driving by.
Thank you. Good morning. It was certainly a horrifying way to start the day. It's in my neighborhood, and I was driving along a main road where the church and school are located, actually on my way to the state fair, and I could see a few EMS vehicles, and my first thought was maybe there was a bad car accident at the intersection or something. And as I approached from about a block away, it was obvious there's a little sort of half circle in front of the church that's a drop-off zone, and that was filled with law enforcement vehicles and EMS vehicles. More were coming from every direction, it seemed. I took off down a side street to try and get around it, and along those side streets, there's probably two of them, then you run into Minnehaha Creek, which is a barrier. But parents were dumping their vehicles on the side streets, and running toward the school and the church. When I finally tried to get out of, the mess to make my way to where I was going, you could see that there were patients loaded onto stretchers with EMS workers working on them. And then as I continued down 54th Street, which is Diamond Lake Road there, for another several blocks, there were squads on both sides of the street, more of them coming off of the freeway headed that direction. You could see SWAT coming. You could see what appeared to be the bomb squad coming. It was just, it looked like every law enforcement vehicle within the city of Minneapolis and Hennepin County was there. And it was horrifying. It was dreadfully obvious that this was some mass event that was not good.
I know this had to have been an incredibly difficult thing for you to see and experience, Jan. You mentioned you live in the neighborhood. I'm from Minneapolis. My mother-in-law taught second grade at Annunciation when she first moved to Minnesota in the late 1970s. This was a long time ago, but it is a caring, welcoming environment. It's a school and a church that plays a huge role in the community there, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it does. I mean, there's kids on my block where I live who go to Annunciation and always have. My next door neighbor had 4 kids who went to Annunciation. And you can always tell, when school has started because it's the main intersection, as you would know. And, there's kids and the parents hang out in the Starbucks across the street after they've dropped their kids off. And so it is a very active place as the school year starts, with lots and lots of kids and parents in that 1 block radius right around the school and church.
What's going through your mind at this moment as you think about what you've witnessed this morning and everything we've learned in the aftermath?
All I could think, I literally continued on my way to the fair, and as I was heading up the freeway, probably 3 or 4 ambulances went by, obviously on their way to HCMC, and all you can think of is the horror and the prayers for the people who were involved and those whose kids were injured, and those whose kids weren't injured, but their classmates were and their friends were. It's just something no one should have to experience.
Just the senselessness of hearing the details described by the police chief moments ago, describing they believe the gunman was standing outside of the school, firing through the window, firing inside at the students who were sitting in their pews for their first all-school mass of this school year that started just days ago. Jan Unstead, we appreciate your time and for sharing your thoughts and helping us understand the neighborhood a little bit better. We are thinking of you and the entire community right now.
Thank you so much. Think of those parents and those kids.
We do want to recap. Officials say that 2 children are dead after the shooting that took place this morning at Annunciation Church and School. 17 others were injured. That includes 14 children at this mass shooting at the Catholic school. It was taking place during that church mass. The shooter died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation just getting started. Police saying that they recovered 3 weapons from the gunman who killed himself in the back of the church. A suspect believed to be in his early 20s with no extensive criminal history, dressed all in black clothing, wearing cargo-type pants, the police chief says. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more throughout the day, and we're going to have much more ahead on NBC News Daily and on our streaming network, NBC News Now, online at NBCnews.com. And, of course, a full wrap-up tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Joe Fryer. Thank you for watching.